Welcome to Life and Love in the Q, a podcast for the LGBTQIA2S plus community, those who support them, and those who just want to learn more.
Together we share the stories and the science of the space and grace to live life in full color.
I'm Jillian Abbey, proud lesbian and mother, Hay House author, queer blogger, and TikTok something or other.
And I'm Treisha Peterson. I'm an LGBTQ ally, proud mom of 6, professor and researcher of identity and the social narratives that impact the way we live and love.
So open your mind, open your heart, and welcome to Life and Love in the Q. Dr. Treisha. Hello.
Hello, it's so good to be here today.
Yeah, I'm really excited for what we're going to talk about because I was scrolling around on your lovely Instagram.
I love it.
And I saw your gorgeous pictures from your recent trip to Bali, which I want to hear so much more about. But there was one post that really stood out in particular. And you talked about a certain 70-30 rule of kind of feelings or approach to life. And I was like, this is really cool. And also, I don't know if I really understand what she's saying here. So I was hoping we could talk about it today and you could explain a little bit more about your time in Bali and what you learned in that experience.
Okay, well, the 70-30, it was actually, I have not stopped thinking about it. And I have probably applied it in my journal almost every single day since I got home. So it definitely was a concept that resonated big time in my heart. But it was, we had gone to a shaman. There was probably 10 of us maybe. And we had signed up to do this cleansing ceremony with a shaman. And we went through, it was a whole long day. And then we were supposed to sleep on some of the thoughts that we'd had. So we finished the cleansing ceremony. We met one-on-one with him about some of the challenges that we were facing in our lives. And then we were supposed to go to sleep. And then the next morning we met with him. And that's when he gave us this information. So there was this big lead up to it. And he was coming at it very definitely from like the shamanistic spiritual side of things. But it still resonates for me on lots of areas. But he was saying that life is in its most growth-centered balance when we are living in a 70-30 ratio. So 70% strengths and 30% weaknesses, 70% excitement, but 30% anxiety. And the thing that I loved most is, and again, he used very spiritual words, but he said that when we can find that 70-30 and make that our life balance, then we are most connected to heaven through our crown chakra and most connected to the earth through our root chakra. So like if you're not somebody who pays a lot of attention to chakras, it's really just connecting our minds and our bodies with our soul. The chakra system runs right through your center of your body. And so it's really just connecting how I think, how I feel, and how I actually live into this beautiful life balance that's focused on growth. It was
love that. And I do want to reiterate the point that is the ratio that they said was best for human growth. And I think there's a lot of people who are looking to grow and make changes. I know I am always looking to like, oh, what do we want to work on next? Or what do we want to do now? But being a perfectionist, my mind always says, well, if you're not giving 100%, doing 100%, feeling 100% happy, proud, achievement oriented, okay, maybe I'll let it slide to like 98%, then you're not pushing hard enough. You're not hustling hard enough and you're not growing. But this is saying, if you really want to grow, dial it back a little.
Well, dial it back and not even just grow, but I kind of want to use the word flourish or thrive instead of grow, because I don't think we've talked about this before. We're not here to grow all the time.
Right.
And that's what I think I loved about this is it is finding that balance between our eternal perfection and our limitless possibility, let's say. That's kind of the spiritual side, but we are still humans.
Right.
as much as we want to think we can do everything, we really can't, and we shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess I kind of like the word thrive instead of grow, because again, as perfectionists, I think you nailed it. If we're not in a state of growth, we actually think we're in a state of like failure or boredom or
decay.
Yeah. And whatever happened to just this concept of being able to accomplish a goal and sit in that goal and savor it for half a second? But if you're a perfectionist, like before you've even hit the milestone, you've moved on to the pressure of the next thing. And so you don't ever actually stop at the milestone.
Right.
I think that's why I like the word thrive for this a little better.
Yeah.
Is that 70-30 gives us that permission to say, I'm always in a state of thriving in my human condition. Even if I'm not growing, even if I'm not moving, I'm purposely thriving in this moment.
I think the other thing I loved about it is the fact that it does give 30% weight to maybe things that we don't attribute any value to, or like the undesirable feelings or emotions that we have, where a lot of people say like, well, I just want to be happy. I just want my kids to be happy. I just, that's the goal in life. But really, this is saying if happy is the feeling, then maybe the healthiest or the optimal balance is that 70% is happy, but it's not 90% happy, 100% happy, like that we need more contrast than we like to acknowledge in our experiences.
Yeah. And I think if you remember when you and I were talking at the beginning of the year about picking a one little word, and I said, I was going to do something different this year and pick its opposite also. And so I actually, after he said this, like I said, I've thought about it a ton. And so I kind of went through all of those things. Like you just said, I want my kids to be happy, and I actually want them to trust melancholy. A lot of times when you're in like the state of melancholy or even sorrow, like we judge those emotions so much. Like there's something wrong with me because I'm feeling sorrow today. I was driving down the road today and listened to a song and I just burst into tears. And a year ago, I would have been so mad at myself. Like, am I still crying? Am I really still crying over this stupid song?
I love it because I do think we forget about the fact that we're humans sometimes. Yes. And I actually experienced this recently too. I had another, I get life coaching pretty regularly, but as I was leading up to my book coming out, we did a lot more sessions because it was a very new experience.
Yeah.
And so I remember the session that I went into most recently, and she said, well, how are you feeling with the book coming out? And I said, well, honestly, I am a bucket full of emotions. Like I'm excited and I'm happy and I'm proud, but I'm also anxious and I'm panicked and I'm scared and I'm sad that the process is over because I really enjoyed the process so much. And I said, I just feel like I'm losing my mind because, I've always wanted to be an author and now I'm achieving that. And this should be the happiest time. And instead, I feel like I'm feeling all the things. I feel like that movie Inside Out, where all the characters are in there and they're just like duking it out with each other. And what was fascinating to me is that she said, okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, you are feeling a lot of different emotions about this book coming out. And I was like, yes. And she said, what do you think a normal human response would be to a book coming out? She said, do you think a normal person would be just happy? I'm like, well, I mean, no, I guess like she said, so you think maybe what you're feeling now is possibly a normal human response to going through a big new event? And I don't know, maybe this sounds absolutely ridiculous to our listeners, but for me at the time, it kind of caught me off guard where I didn't realize that I wasn't giving myself any permission to have a normal human response. I thought the fact that there was anything negative happening in my emotions that like, oh gosh, I'm being ungrateful. Or, if this is such a great thing, then I should only feel good about it.
Yeah.
But
so you're a human.
Yeah. Allegedly.
And like I said, that's what I really loved about when he said it, because I do. I think sometimes we expect ourselves to be performing at a superhuman ratio of emotions, but this isn't about trying to paint our sadness into happiness. It's about saying, I can hold happy and sad. And actually, there might be some beauty in having both of them at the same time. There might be beauty in having the excitement and the anxiety at the same time. I think, again, for me, it was just more about being able to give myself the grace to know that I am human.
Right. But for me, I couldn't see that until I stepped outside of it and had to think about, well, how would another person react to this?
Yeah.
If another person told me that they were feeling this way, does that seem normal? And I was like, wow, yeah, that does seem normal. I wouldn't judge any other person for feeling that way. And here I am wondering why I am feeling ungrateful or whatever for what this experience is.
I think you said something really important and you distinguished it in a good way, I think, because what you're saying is, or what I heard you say is that if somebody else came to you and said, hey, I'm publishing a book and I'm like an emotional ball of all of the emotions, inside out has gone crazy in my head. If they said that to you, you wouldn't judge them. But I think the other thing that we do a lot is we look at the other authors, let's say in the world, that maybe we don't know what they're going through, and we assume that it's all good for them. And
absolutely.
So, because we've told ourselves a story about what Brene Brown feels when she publishes a book, she always looks happy to publish a book. She looks excited. She looks proud. She looks confident. So therefore, I should be excited and proud and confident. And why am I not? Well, then I'm not perfect. I'm not good enough. I must be doing something wrong because I feel sadness and anxiety. I think that's the opposite, that's the other side of the coin of what you're saying. If a friend of ours came and told us the exact same things, we could have so much grace.
Right.
But when we look at people we don't know a lot about and then try to compare ourselves to them, that's where we fall into trouble again about the emotions that we're experiencing.
Yeah. So I want to kind of talk about, because there's even contrast to the 70-30. We're not always in the 70-30. I've been trying to think about how this ratio would apply to different times in my life, because there were many years of my life where I felt like everything was almost so even keel, that there were no highs and lows. It was almost, I don't want to say it's 50-50 because it was just kind of like devoid of most emotional feelings. It wasn't 50% happy, 50% sad. It was, there's no roller coaster here. Do you have any thoughts or experience on that? Or how does that, when do we get to the point where we say, okay, we're out of balance now, and this may be problematic?
And I think it's hard because 70-30 is quantitative, right? So I don't have two measuring cups that I can give people that says, here's 70 and here's 30. Make sure you always have it. How can we live life where we have an open mind center? We're speaking our truth. We're seeing beyond the immediate moment. We're open in our hearts. We're creative. If you're at a 50-50, there's a good chance something is closed up. And so it would be about asking yourself, where am I actually not experiencing emotions? If you're not experiencing sadness, there's a good chance you're also not experiencing its contrast, which is happiness. Mm-hmm. If you're not feeling content, then you're also maybe not feeling uncomfortable. And we need a little discomfort to push ourselves to grow. 50-50 is just, again, it's not necessarily that it's bad, but it is out of balance with living this openness to life experiences, which is this 70-30.
Yeah.
I actually looked at it from the other perspective, and I was looking at it at times when I felt like I was operating at 100% in all areas. And I realized that those were the times that I very quickly turned into burnout. I was forcing myself to be 100% in everything. And it looked for a moment like I was thriving, so I kept pushing it. But that's where I found 3 different times in my life where there had been maybe a period of 6 to 9 months of 100%. It looked like I was flying high. But then I looked and went, oh my gosh, that was a burnout. That was a burnout. That was a burnout.
But I think we can identify if not within ourselves, within other people in our life, where you've met that person where they're even keel, let it roll, let it roll, let it roll, explode.
Yes.
Or achieve, crash.
Yes. And that's exactly what this is talking about. So you were just talking about the 50-50. I feel like that's kind of where I've been for the past maybe 9 months. And as I've been thinking about it, I think it served a purpose for a time. I was at this 100% for so long that I needed to come back into some sort of an alignment. I think I've overcorrected now. So I'm at that 50-50 where I don't feel like there's anything bad, but there's also nothing that's like, I don't want to say nothing, but kind of what you said, I'm more at that even keel. Well, it's definitely time for me to push that back to that 70-30. And I can feel that.
Yeah.
Just in the way that I am moving about my everyday life. I think we can tell when that zest, that thriving, that flourishing, like think of your plants when they're just barely surviving. And you're like, oh, do you need water? Do you need a bigger pot? You're not growing and your leaves aren't bright green. Something is up.
Is it because I haven't given you water in 3 months? Is that it? Is that why?
Is that
right? Oh, it's almost like you can see all my plants now. No, but it's funny because this whole conversation, I'm looking at the plant behind you, and I know that we've talked before about, so if 70-30 is how we expand, flourish as humans, we also know that in nature, things go dormant, things hibernate, they have seasons to them. So I think what you just explained in a human perspective very much matches what we see reflected in the natural world, that
absolutely
we need those breaks also.
Mm-hmm. I think that's why it made so much sense to be in Bali, because the way that the Balinese plant their rice fields is they plant, it's so beautiful, but they plant so that earth is actually taking its break when it needs to, but the rice is planted in, I'm going to get it wrong, but kind of in layers, so that when one layer is resting, the other layer is growing. And so rice actually doesn't ever stop growing in Bali, but it changes where it's growing from. It's so beautiful.
And they give it its time to rest.
Yeah.
I love it.
They work that into their crop plans.
It's almost like we're a part of nature and nature's a part of us.
So
and
bizarre.
We can work. I know. Harmony? What? Anyways. Well, this is fabulous. I'm so glad we got to talk about this because, like I said, I think it's such a simple concept and also such a profound concept if we give ourselves the permission to know that that 30% is a much needed and valuable part of the experience and a necessary part. And
it doesn't mean we're broken or bad. It means we're balanced.
Yeah, I like that. Not broken, not bad, just balanced.
Yep.
All right. Any other final thoughts?
I don't think so. I think every single person in the world should go to Bali. So, but I'm going to say don't go because I don't want it crowded when I go next.
Okay. Well, I'm in for the next trip. So, all right. On that note, listeners, thank you so much. And we'll be recording next time from Bali. Just kidding. I wish. All right,
have a great week.
You too. Thank you for listening to Life and Love in the Queue. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. And if you have questions, contact us at lifeandloveinthequeue@gmail.com. Until next time, Q Crew.